All right, I'm going to keep letting people in, but go ahead, Troy.
Hey, Troy. How's the chest and lungs doing?
Hey y'all. Um, I don't know. I feel like there's been some improvement. I've been doing the hiss-ups and putting
How
it
about
on
this?
the
How about the
medulla.
Cypress? Were you able to do
Sorry?
some Cypress? Were you able to do some Cypress internal?
I took Cypress for like 3 days until I ran out.
Okay.
And I forgot to reorder that when I placed my last order. But I will. I didn't notice like an immediate.
No, it's pleurisy, dude. It takes a while. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, everything you did, and even after we were done, I went and looked up my notes on pleurisy, and I was like, yeah, Troy's got pleurisy. I mean, it's a hard one to evaluate and diagnose, but given all your symptoms and that you had the history of having pleurisy potentially before, it's probably pleurisy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I
Were
just
you able
got
to get the pleurisy root off of
I
Amazon?
just got it in. I just
Okay.
took my second dose of it.
Yeah.
So
Three capsules a couple of times a day. Yeah.
so that's probably also going to be like a while, like a cumulative thing that needs
Yeah,
time to build up.
like you'll start feeling like it feels a little bit better, and then you'll notice it feels a little bit better than it did, and then it's not just like going, oh, that was amazing, that just knocked it out. It's just going to be these little like, oh, it feels a little better, feels a little better, feels a little better, feels a little better. But pleurisy can linger for a really long time. Like it can linger for months and months, and so we need to just stay on the treatment for a while so that it just keeps reducing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, like I told you last week, I went to a doctor like 20 years ago when I was in college, and he said he thought I had it, but I experienced the symptoms twice then, and I hadn't experienced them
Think
again
about it
until
like this.
now.
Like think about like when you get like tendonitis in your arm or like your knee or something, and it's like it feels a little better, and then you go do some movement, and then it comes back, and then it feels a little better, and then it kind of comes back. It's like your lungs have tendonitis. Like it's just one of those things where it's not going to get wiped out right off the bat. But if you just keep treating it over a period of time, it will just keep diminishing little by little. But it's one of those weird things that like pleurisy is one of the few conditions that like when we used to do like osteopathic manipulations and stuff, that lining gets so irritated that it's one of the few conditions that we would not do manipulations on. Like either even like a really soft manipulation, because it is potentially irritating to that lining. And so you have to treat it almost like internal. And the difficulty is you have to breathe, so you're constantly doing something that's irritating it, like something that happens to the lungs like that, or like when it happens where your bladder gets inflamed. It's hard to treat because you're trying to calm it down, and then urine has to pass through it again, and then you got to calm it down, and then it's just one of those things that it can take a little while. And so just stay on top of it, keep do the pleurisy route. I mean, if you're doing the pleurisy route, you could probably get away with not doing the Cypress. You might even want to do a little bit of like galbanum or something like on the wrist, not so much for the pleurisy itself, but it's a painful condition. And so just keep pain levels down. My old notes even said like if they won't use herbs or oils for the pain, ibuprofen, Tylenol, whatever it is, just keep the pain down.
I don't notice, except for the like 2 or 3 times that I've had like little acute moments that last a couple minutes. Like
it's usually with exertion. Like I mean, sometimes it gets so bad that just breathing is exertion, but like it could be like if you're running up some stairs, or if you would feel like some just like weird kind of pain in the chest or in the lining itself. Sometimes it even feels like is a rib out of place, or it's a weird condition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After we talked about it that one day, I looked at Samantha, we were done. I was like, we need to have some pleurisy root on hand here just in case that happens to us, because when it happens, yeah, it's a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was super uncomfortable and scary. And I just out of the blue remembered something about a niece having like an effect for breathing in the heart. And so I was kind of in a panicky state when it happened that first time. And I just ran
Yeah,
to the room and grabbed a niece and drank like,
yeah,
a quarter of a bottle.
yeah. I mean, the good thing is it's not potentially life-threatening or anything. It just kind of sucks. You know what I mean? It's uncomfortable, it feels tight, it feels whatever, and it just takes a while for it to go down. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have felt like kind of abnormally moody, and I like since I had COVID and this stuff started
Mhm.
happening, and I'm wondering, do you think that that's just like a result of shortness of breath and low
Give me an
oxygen?
idea of moody. Like you just feel like cranky, you feel like emotions go up and
Yeah,
down.
like cranky and like more emotionally reactive than usual. And like I almost felt like kind of like listless and like depressed for like the last couple weeks.
The listless and the depression could be post-COVID, like definitely. I mean, that's a common thing, like when the body goes through a viral issue. In the old days, in the old herbal writings and old oil writings, they would call it like melancholy, like, or you just get the blahs, you just feel like it is a kind of a depletion. You could try treating it a couple of ways. Do you happen to have Melissa? Is he still there?
I thought so. I thought maybe you just want to look. Let me see real quick. There you go.
There you go. It wasn't letting me unmute. Um, I don't think I have any Melissa
Okay.
left.
So like, I'm not sure that it will work. So don't just run out and buy it. Like, let's do this. Like go to the health food store and get like a tincture or some capsules of Melissa, but they also call it lemon balm sometimes. And take a pretty hefty dosage, like take 5 or 6 capsules a couple of times a day. And it's strengthening, but it's strengthening to the nervous system. It's kind of calming and soothing to the nervous system as well. I think it would calm the emotions down. It would offset the like low grade depression, like you're saying, and also still has some impact on the immune system. And so I kind of like that for this situation. And if you had the oils, I'd have you take 2 or 3 drops like in water a day. But let's just have you go big with herbs and see if it works. And then if it works and you feel like you need more treatment, then we could go with the oil, because the oil is going to be stronger, but it's an expensive oil. I mean, it's pricey. So let's not have you do it unless it's going to, provide some benefit to you. And so lemon balm, or it's also called, lemon balm, but Melissa or lemon balm, and some hefty dosages, like, 5, 6 capsules a couple of times a day. I mean, it will make you feel good. If you had some African bluegrass, I'd put several drops on the wrist just to help with the moody part. But I suspect that the nervous system's a little bit depleted, and I think if we kind of fortify that a little bit, it should be better.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it feels like I sort of am swinging from like
Yeah,
almost from the depression to like a kind of like manic
yeah,
nervousness
yeah.
feeling.
That can happen with depleted nerves. Like it's like because if you think about it, like you're dealing with like fatigue and or like a depletion, which is what fatigue is. So you kind of go through this phase where you don't have any energy, and then and not just energy to act, you also don't have energy to feel. Like, yeah, I mean, that's the thing where the depression starts to happen with physical depletions, is you just don't have the energy to literally feel good, feel happy, feel this, you're just kind of feeling lower emotions, and that's it, and so you go from that phase, and then how the body tries to compensate for the fatigue or the depletion is then it stimulates your adrenals. So then you go into a little bit of like that like manic thing where it's like, okay, now I got some adrenaline, and so with that comes some lower emotions, and you get like a burst of energy, but it's not like, hey, I feel more energy, I think I'm going to get some stuff done. It's more like, I got some energy, it's like you're a little like wound up for a little bit, and then you kind of crash again. And so the Melissa should help that as well.
Okay. Yeah, I actually started jogging or just going around the block because I started to get moments where I felt like I was gonna kind of flip a little bit if I didn't exercise. Okay, I'll try that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you're using up a little bit of the adrenaline, you're producing some serotonin. I mean, that's a good way to do it. But like, I have a really weird question. Like sometimes when you're sitting and like you'll be fine, and then does your hand start shaking a little bit?
No.
Like you see how my hands doing it? It's like, it's not a lot, but it's just like, and it will last just for like 30 seconds or like a minute. It'll just kind of shake, and then it stops.
Not my hands, but honestly, the way you did that, it sort of reminds me of like I have noticed that kind of a wobbly, shaky feeling in my front solar plexus and my basic.
It's your nerves are depleted. Yeah, that is like one of the signs of, and here's the interesting thing. It can happen after like colds and flus. It can happen after some different health issues and things like that. But one of the things that can also do that is intense meditation. So you could be just fine, not having anything going on, but you do a bunch of intense meditation over a period of time, and it can be a little bit hard on the nervous system a little bit sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. And then the nerves need to almost be like fortified with that. And so like as prevention, you would use something like the firs, the spruces, the frankincense, myrrh, things like that. But when you're in it and it's starting to get shaky like that, they're more like long-term. They're not really for treating the issue at hand. That's when you got to go to like other kinds of nervings, like Melissa or something like that. Melissa, really good for the nerves. Melissa's really good for the nerves. It's very good for activating the heart, but it's very good for like strengthening and toning the heart. And when I say the heart, the emotional heart, like the heart chakra. And it makes the heart like more resilient. Like, the way that I used to describe it back when I was teaching like herbal classes is like, if you use Melissa a lot, it's like your heart can take a punch. Like if somebody walked up and just bam, right into the emotional center of your body, the Melissa, if you've been working it for a while, you're like, yeah, is that all you got? It's kind of almost like that. And so if you're feeling a little bit like sensitive in that area, it's actually more neurological than it is like emotional, but it produces an emotional like response. And so try the Melissa from the health food store, see if it works, and then if so, we'll amp it up with the oil. But let's make sure that it works first. Like, let's not have you just spend the money to spend it.
Just a sec. Go ahead, Troy.
Hey, Troy.
I was.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, great. And then let us know, like give it a few days and then let me know, like, is it swinging any direction, like 3 or 4 days, and then let me know.
Okay, this weekend. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. All right, we still have a little bit of time. Is there angel questions that you guys have? If not, we'll just jump right into a practice. But you have anything angel, esoteric oriented? Now would be a good time.
Yeah, go ahead, Helen.
Hey,
Hey, hi, Greg.
Ellen.
Yeah, just an esoteric question. Um, could you explain a little bit about what you mean by alchemy? So many people use that word these days, and I know you've been using it for a long time, so you have some real roots in it, but I just love a little context.
Oh yeah, like that word gets used like how somebody would say like, oh, that person's really good with plants, they're a plant guru or something like that. It's like it just gets thrown out like randomly, or yeah, I hear you. So alchemy is, you know, there's multiple facets to it, but basically it's, you could call it a practice of transmutation or transformation. I prefer to use the word transformation because I think transmutation is a part of it, but you're transforming the lower nature and the body and the physiological processes to be more aligned with the soul, you could say. And so there's different components of it. You know, that's why we go through and we talk about like the physiology and the nervous system, and then we differentiate between lower emotions and higher emotions. And, you know, even saying lower emotions, I like to use the term of like physiological emotions so that we see that there is a part of the body that needs to be like tempered, or like you could say conditioned, so to speak. And so when we're not really, like when we're a normal everyday person, conditioning is happening all the time to any of us and all of us, right? It's just we're living in a body where we're being, the essence is being conditioned about being in the form, and then we are interacting with things in the environment that are either making us feel good, feel bad, and all of this is constantly conditioning us, right? And so on one level, when we're going through and we're doing healing, we're kind of trying to unwind the conditioning, or at least be able to manage it better, or not be as held down by it. But then when you look at alchemy, you know, there's the idea of turning lead to gold. And so, you know, when you read some of those writings, they're talking about like physically turning lead to gold. It's more about turning like the normal everyday part of your energy body, more specifically your tempering and training the physical body to be able to bring in like spiritual energies. And at first it's just like focusing on light. You're trying to bring light in, you're trying to bring light into the different centers, you're trying to bring it down and eventually get it down below their feet. So on one level, you could say, well, it has to do with changing the normal everyday person's energy, body, and physiology. You're spiritualizing it and you're turning it to gold, because eventually when spiritual energy starts coming in, it's you know, it's a brilliant white with maybe a little violet or some other colors, and then eventually that kind of eventually changes the energy body, and there starts to be little flecks of gold and things like that. And I would say yes. And so even if you stop there at that point, you're basically doing a practice to change something. You know, you're doing it to condition something. And so even when you mix like two chakras, like say you're doing something and you're doing the heart and then the crown, and then you're doing the heart and crown together, that is actually kind of a form of alchemy. And you're changing the nature of the energy body to have it do something different. You're conditioning it to do something that's not reactive. You're doing it intentionally, like this is the result that I would like to have, right? So on one level, you're doing that to kind of manage things so that the body can handle like spiritual energy and peace and stillness and contact. But then at some point, even that starts to be like not enough. Like you're still needing to take it a little bit deeper. And so you are trying to temper the body to be able to handle bigger experiences, but it's really how well you can take light down into the form that changes the energy body and actually is what is tied to your spiritual growth or spiritual evolution. So for a while we're doing it into the body, but eventually what we're trying to do is to take it all the way down through the body and then eventually through the feet, and then starting to radiate it down below your feet. And you could say it a different way. Like there's different kinds of alchemical practices and they're targeting different things and different kinds of conditioning. We're doing it under the veil of different things when we go through the classes. You know, a lot of times I would just say, oh, this does this does that, right? But there's a phase where you're just trying to stabilize everything. And then there's a phase where you start trying to condition things. And then when things start to get conditioned to a certain extent, then it's like, okay, things have been conditioned, game on. Let's take this to another level. And that is really bringing in a massive amount of essence to really change the form on one level. But that realm that is below your feet, how much of that can be transmuted or transformed is really tied to how much you spiritually grow and evolve in a particular lifetime. And you could almost say your habits, your thoughts, your behaviors, how you react to things in the normal everyday world, how you react to pain, how you react to any of these different situations, you're cultivating something below your feet. Like no matter what it is, good, bad, you're cultivating something below your feet, right? And if you're tied to that reactive nature, that physiological emotion, that instinctive response, or even when people aren't necessarily like in an instinctive response, it's still, they're more in that phase of being reactionary to the things in their environment. They're not thinking big picture. They're not thinking like, what are the consequences of this? They just kind of see something and respond, or they take in a piece of information and go, oh, I'll change, or I'll do this. You're trying to reach a state where you become non-reactive to like human activity. You know, it's not like you're dismissing the human activity, but if something painful happens, you're like, okay. But even if something positive happens, it's like, oh, that's great. But it's not like you're jumping and you're trying to cultivate something deeper than where you're at. And again, going down below your feet. And so this like first layer, this first realm is tied to that kind of activity, reactionary, lower emotions, basically like kind of animalistic qualities or tendencies, like you know, just like being aggressive, being like, I need to be right, I need to set this person straight, I need to, you know, whatever it is, there's a certain thing that's being cultivated. And when the energy comes in, it's not always light that's going out of your feet. And when you're in that animalistic state, not only is light not going in, but you're identifying with the form, and you're literally drawing up the energies associated with those behaviors up into your energy body, like into your physical body, into your emotional body, into your mental body. And so this causes more conditioning. This causes your like emotions and mind to function a particular way. And so you could almost say it's a kind of like, you could say entanglement, but it's almost a kind of enslavement. Like it's a self-induced like enslavement, you could say. I mean, that's a little bit of a harsh way to say it, but it's like that saying, as it is below, so as it is, whatever's below is same as above. or say however they say it.
As above,
Basically,
so below.
yeah, there you go. As above, so below. There you go. And so we're kind of cultivating something that is down below your feet, right? And if you're constantly doing those kinds of behaviors, you're attracting and accumulating that kind of energy into the different bodies, right? So then if you start unwinding these things, you start calming them down, you start tempering them down, and you start preparing the body to be able to handle more light. Yes, it can turn into gold, right? That's very good. But what starts to happen is it starts to dissipate your connection to that realm, and the light literally takes you past that realm into like a deeper realm. And so even that idea of like streams of consciousness, it's not streams coming from up above, it's literally taking light in, going past that first realm, going into the second realm. So you harvest that more non-reactive phase. You're able to handle more spiritual energy. You're able to be more aware of the light within. Your behaviors and things are changing because there's this like stream of awareness or consciousness. But also what's happening is more energy is coming up to activate the centers and eventually feeding the incarnated soul, which is developing the incarnated soul, or that point of light 12 inches above your head. And then eventually it goes all the way up to the higher soul, which is how the soul evolves. And so you're literally breaking the patterns that have caused you suffering from incarnation to incarnation. I mean, it's literally breaking not just emotional mental patterns, but karmic patterns, you know. And when this starts to happen, the mind starts to change. You go from less reactive, like, you know, focused on details and what this does that does this, those kinds of things, where you start thinking more strategically, like, if I do this in 3 years, it's going to produce this result, or if I do this, this is going to pull me away from my connection or my, you know, from the light, or if I do this, you know, you're thinking like deeper into the consequences. You're much more aware of the consequences, which is literally the teachings of Christ. You know, Christ is about forgiveness of sin and karma, but the part of that is being able to see past that reactionary state and going deeper. And it's even the meaning of Mary being born a virgin. It wasn't that she didn't have sex, it's that she's untouched by human activity. Like, she's in the body, she's fully present, and whatever pains, whatever negativity that's happening to her, she is not reacting. She is remaining the essence. Like, she is like the essence or spirit in form, right? And so this is tied to yeah, maybe of that second realm. And then as a person develops even more, that third realm is literally the realm of like the great teachers, the saints, the holy masters, the gurus, you know, all those kinds of things. And so we don't always try to go to this realm, right? But when you start to be awakened to this, usually within a few incarnations, you start trying to do it kind of quickly, right? You know, sometimes 3, sometimes 5, you know, it takes a while, but you get the ball moving. I mean, there are cases where people have done it in a single incarnation, like in the Buddhist tradition, the Saint Milarepa, he did it in a single incarnation. You know, he went from that animal realm down through the second realm, down into the third realm. And so this is, these realms are symbolized by the cobra. You know, you're activating the kundalini, so to speak, and moving the energy up. But for you to do that, the divine energy or light has to come down, right? And so the blue pearl is, or the mental permanent seed, is tied to, like you could say, different traditions will say different things, but basically they all say something similar where it's like the realm of the birds, like it's the birds and the snakes kind of fighting it out, you could say. And in this, the bird is esoterically the victor, like the bird comes down and conquers the snake, right? And so different traditions will say this in different ways, but the bird is associated with the light. It's associated with expansion of awareness, expansion of consciousness. It's associated with the higher realms that are up above your head. But for you to be able to experience those higher realms, just to try to go up, is you only get like kind of so far, right? You have to kind of keep taking the energy down and mixing it for then you to like shoot back up. And so there's just these old alchemical practices where they just say different versions of the same thing. You bring in the light, you get it through the body, you get it out through the feet. I mean, this is the short version. And then you keep taking it deeper and deeper into the form, and then it breaks it down and shoots it back up, and it's like an offering to God, or offering to, sometimes they'll say it's the offering to the light, or to the heavenly birds, or you know, in the Buddhist tradition they say Garuda. You know, the peacock would be a symbol of it. In the Native American tradition, it's the eagle. Just different versions of the same thing. And so the different alchemies are different ways to go through and enhance this process. You know, you're developing certain things to keep taking it deeper and deeper, because it's not like there's all these different things that you're doing. It's like you keep going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Like you're not having all these pieces like you would, like how you think about a computer, where you go, I have this program and I have this program and I have this program. It's like all the programs are stacked up on each other, and you just keep going down and down and down and down and down. And so the different alchemies are depending on what layer you're on, you could say, like where are you at in going down. And so, so some spiritual teachers, you know, kind of do this through the back door. You know, you could say that they try to get the emotional body and the mental body like more on board with what's going on, because there's a lot of resistance in the body. There's a lot of, you have to spend time to condition these things. And even when great teachers come in the body, they still take time to go through and do purifications on the body, to condition the body to respond to the light in a way that is more beneficial rather than resistant or harmful. And so you know, sometimes some teachers will just say it point blank. They usually teach more through ritual. Like they'll say, we're not trying to have higher consciousness, we're trying to have lower consciousness, which means they're trying to bring soul energy or light and keep going down, 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 down. And so they usually don't teach as much like verbally. They'll go through and teach more with like ceremony, or through transmission, or Shaktipat, or you know, just like a transference of energy. And so that can be helpful, but at some point the person still has to kind of like realize what's happening and like actively kind of cultivate some of these practices or principles. And so, you know, the use of the 4 directions is a way to properly process things that are happening in the body and with the environment, to be able to take that energy down. You know, like the Astara symbol with the 7-pointed star, that is a set of, there's the 7 alchemies that produces the lotus in the middle. That is actually a very old symbol that's from other traditions that are also associated with the 7 planets and the 7 principles that you're trying to cultivate to become like the divine man, or the realized man is what they would say. And so part of why it's difficult to say, it's not just like it is this kind of process. It is a set of practices depending on where a person's at. Like if you try to do the deeper practices and you're just beginning, not going to work very well. Like you literally have to go, think of it like this, like you're going down a set of stairs. Like you want to be at that last stair and then be on that ground floor. You don't just jump down to that ground floor. You have to go step by step by step by step, because it's stable and it's safe. You know, if you just jump all the way down, there's ways to do it. Very unstable, and I would say it could drive a person crazy because they didn't prep themselves. And so those usually involve really super hardcore practices, but things that you wouldn't like, they're not made public, but like nobody does them, like, you know, because it's, you know, maybe great teachers come in and are able to do it, but for us, we can't go there. Like, you know, we got to go the step by step. But think of it as like actively conditioning yourself so that you harvest something that's down below your feet. You're either harvesting hell or heaven. Heaven on earth is below, you know, something you cultivate below your feet. Hell is also something that you cultivate below your feet. It's not a place that you go to when you die. You're living in it in the moment, you know, like when you're in the body. And yes, like afterwards, you'll still linger there for a little bit, but you know, that's the thing with the bodhisattvas and the messiahs. And like when Christ comes off the cross, like, you know, he does his things. And then what does he do? He goes down into the realm of hell before he goes to heaven, right? He goes to like liberate the souls who are stuck there. And it's tied to this aspect of the consequences of the things that they've cultivated, not just in a life, but over incarnation, over incarnation, over incarnation, over incarnation. And so the idea of going through and doing the blood purifications, for example, all tied to the kinds of energies that come in down below your feet. Like you go through and you do some of these other practices that we talk about. They're all tied to like either bringing the energy down or the kind of energy that's coming up. Even if you look at it from a psychological point of view, like the idea when somebody's identified more with the lower nature, they're not releasing light into the earth. They're actually drawing up earth prana. That we're always drawing up earth prana, but it's like more of a negative earth prana, you could say. They're drawing it up so that they strengthen the lower body, but it's not moving anything up because there's no light going down. And so it just keeps activating the lower nature, and in a way, like entangles them into the form. Like it's literally the opposite of when they say Virgin Mary, we're being untouched by human activity. It is literally being almost super entangled because of human activity, because it's all these like lower animalistic tendencies that are just associated with the form. And so this is even the idea in the Christian tradition or the Catholic tradition about original sin. It's not that you're born and you're bad, is you got to do this dance. Like you gotta, regardless if you're aware of it or not, you got to get in and temper these things, because just being in a body, you are being affected by this. You're either cultivating heaven or you're cultivating hell. And so the idea of Christ coming in is to help undo some of that entanglement and teach us to like go beyond that first realm, go beyond that nature, to go to an even deeper nature. And so if you look at Katumi being like an emissary for Christ, who's also Saint Francis of Assisi. He is the being associated with white light. He's the being associated with alchemy. He is the being that is associated with like meditation practices. They say the next Christ will be very much associated with sadhana and like meditation practices, which is literally that second realm. Like it is like the byproduct of meditation and sadhana practices, like, you know, mantras, meditations, deep prayer, like, you know, purifications of virtues, things like this is tied to this. And so, I mean, we could say more, but we're kind of out of time, but it's like, it's starting to be in that realm. And like, there's lots of different alchemies, but it's not like they're all these different things. Just think of them as being just like stacked on each other. And it's like, this is the alchemy for me right now. And then you go past that, and then you go, yeah, I can shed that. This is the alchemy for me right now. And then you kind of shed that. And then now this is the alchemy.
Wow. And the streams of consciousness class this weekend is going to be a continuation of this.
Yeah, like so Celophon, and then 4 directions, and then streams of consciousness. And then there'll be some deeper work with some of those meditation classes that we're going to do, is all like boiling this down to, you know, that's why I keep saying like, okay, I think we're ready for this. Like, let's do this. And so we're going through and winding through some of this like deeper work, deeper practices.
Right. Thank you so much.
You're
That's
so welcome.
really amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, we got to jump into the Astara thing, and so do the prayer bowl blessings. Join us if you'd like. It's usually about 15 minutes, and if not, we have our practice tomorrow, and then we have the class on the weekend. So love you guys, and we'll see you soon.